he decided that he was going to have a confrontation with Relly. That's what happened. We'll go through the video. It's very clear. The defendant goes there with a gun. He's got two guys with him. He grabs Relly. He initiated this incident. And what I don't think is being addressed enough, and Relly talked about it, is that remember, Relly has no idea before this is happening. He doesn't think it's this severe of an issue. They've known each other half their lives. They understand they're upset with each other. That's clear. You have to text back and forth. But at that moment, and I'm not talking about when the defendant fires the gun. I'm talking about the parking garage. When the defendant pulls out the gun, Relly's entire future flashes before his eyes. And you know what that future is? He's done. It's over. What makes it over? Well, he understands that if the defendant is upset with him enough to pull a gun on him, that he's going to ruin him. As he told you, that means no more artists will sign with him. That means record deals will go away. He's done. And he doesn't know this is coming. He doesn't have time to contemplate it. And what's his response? It's shock and it's anger. And it's not really thinking about what is smart. The argument Ms. Pactina makes is, well, who would go after somebody who's pulled a gun on? Well, that's not quite a fair argument, because it's not somebody who's pulled a gun on them. It's someone who was a close friend. And Relly told you he really wasn't thinking about the consequences. He was angry. He also told you that, you know what? Rocky had pulled a gun on him, and he put it back. So he realized at that point, his life as he knew it is over. By the way, he was right. So we're not here to talk about what damages Relly should get, what damages he shouldn't get. But let's remember something. That man shot him. That man took away the career that he had. I don't know what that's worth. 30 million sounds a bit excessive to me, but I'm not the lawyer in that trial, and you're not the jury. So that will be hashed out, that will be debated, and that will be eventually decided upon. But there's no question in that moment, he realized he was losing something very, very important, very precious. And so what does he do? He follows, and we have the second incident. Now, what started the second incident? We'll never know. We know that Relly is yelling at him. Relly is saying very unkind things. And we know there's no question, the defendant is proud. Okay? And I'm going to give you another word, because I'm not going to hide from it. He's entitled. All right? Everybody runs around. He is a big, important man, and everybody serves him. This is just a small example, but it's important. The witnesses who came in are dependent upon him financially. They're dependent upon him for their careers. And what happened in the middle of a trial, with 12 on the stand, 12's asked a question. Has anyone ever seen or heard a defendant yell out to a witness in front of the jury, "Don't answer that"? That's what happens when you have a lot of power. And no one has ever told you, you know what? You can't do that. So why did the defendant, why did he take out the gun and fire those shots? I don't know. But you don't have to figure that out either. Because in the end, and I covered this in jury selection, I asked each one of you, if I prove to you, Mr. Presenter, I can prove to you what happened in this case, beyond a reasonable doubt, and you don't understand why it happened, it still happened. But that's not where the story ends, because that happened. And the first act's important too. When he pulls the gun out, I'm going to go through the video, but it's very clear that that incident ends because a couple of people walk by. That's very clear. There are witnesses. One of the witnesses, I think 12, I believe, even mentioned, yeah, there's people walking by, but that's not what happened. Well, you can see where they are, and you can see that right after, that's when he puts the gun back. When they get to the second scene, something happens. And one of the things that makes no sense in the defense argument, 0 sense, is that they keep talking about the timing of the shots. Okay? It's not when the first shot was fired, and you're going to see it. You can see, you can't tell what it is, but you can see Rocky make a movement behind his back and pull out a firearm. Pull out, you can't tell what it is, but he's going to pull it out of his mouth, and at that point in time, he's going to start advancing to where Relly and Gills are. That is what Relly responds to, is that firearm being pulled out. Yes, he grabs Gills before the first shot is fired because he's trying to avoid getting shot. So again, the timing of which shot it is it 1 second before or after? That's an irrelevance. It doesn't matter. It's not even the defense theory. Another thing that is really, really important. And again, I'm going to call it out. I'm not going to hide behind it. That man decided that his ego and his vendetta and his anger at Relly was important enough that he was going to risk not only Relly's life or Gil's life, but he was going to fire 2 shots from a 9mm firearm in the middle of Hollywood. Now, I don't have to tell you, because you all know it's common sense. Bullets travel until they hit something. That's what happens. They're fired at very, very high velocity. They're coming out at an incredible speed. And they travel until they hit something. Sometimes what they hit is the ground. And they ricochet. Sometimes what they hit is a car. Sometimes what they hit is the person they're in there. And sometimes some tourist walking down Hollywood Boulevard with her family all of a sudden drops dead because they've been shot in the head by a bullet that somebody selfishly fired to settle a childish dispute. That's what he did. That's the conduct in this case. It's not about what injury Relly received. It's not about how much money he's going to sue for. Those are not in the jury instructions. You're not going to see a jury instruction on, quote, extortion. Because that's not what you're here to decide. That's what happened in this case. That man decided, you know what? I'm angry. And I'm going to show him. The defense argument, as I listened, it was almost like Mr. Tacopina took off in a plane with no flight plan, and he flew around in circles. Circle after circle after circle. And eventually, he kind of just ran out of gas and kind of just crashed the plane. There wasn't much direction. There wasn't much focus. And there wasn't an emphasis on the actual facts you're here to decide. Now listen, he's got a tough case. In opening statement, my partner got up here and he told me this is a simple case. It is a simple case. I'm going to tell you, this case could and easily easily.
Okay, I need a break from all the debauchery. Shout out to the International Quiet Storm coming through in the chat with a $10 super chat. Says, let's get AV to 1,000 likes. Can y'all do that for me on Valentine's Day? Can y'all do that? Can we get to 1,000 likes? I think we could do it. Some of y'all are hitting the like button right now. We're at 780. Can we get to 1,000? Subscribe to the channel. I know you all can do it. Both actions are 100% free. Thank you so much, International Quiet Storm. Hit the like button, y'all. We almost there. Almost at 1,000.
Could be a 5-minute verdict. And here's why. Because once you decide that this was not a prop gun, and ladies and gentlemen, it's not a prop gun. I'm going to go through all the reasons. And once you decide that, this case is done. It's over. Because that's the defense of the case. Not, as Mr. Takapina tried to argue, well, it's self-defense. You notice, Mr. Takapina didn't actually reach the next step. He talked about self-defense, but he never explained to you, for it to be self-defense, you have to find that it was a real gun. That's what you have to find. If you have a question about that, you ask the court. You have to find, to get to self-defense, that it was a real gun. And their defense in this case was, it was a prop gun. That's the issue in this case. Was it a prop gun or was it not? If you find it's a prop gun, all I can say is, you know what? You really need to examine why you're getting it. And I'm going to bring up something that's really important. The defendant is a celebrity. His wife's an even bigger celebrity. Many of you know who they are. They brought in 2 adorable children yesterday for closing argument. Now, they haven't been here at any other time. And you have to ask yourselves, those kids have a right to be here. Why children that age would be here in a situation like this, don't know. But you have to ask yourselves, am I going to let my feelings of not wanting to convict the defendant? And Mr. Takapina made it very clear. You notice in closing today, he literally brought up Rihanna, he brought up the defendant's family, and he basically was saying, hey, listen,
why bring up the kid?
It's going to be very difficult on the family. That is not something you are allowed to consider. So I'm not telling you I don't think you should consider it. You are not allowed to consider it. If you think you are allowed to consider it, ask the question of the judge. When you go back, you can send out notes, you can ask questions. You are not allowed to consider how this might affect Rihanna or his kids. And there's a very simple reason. We are all in the world responsible for what we do. And I'm going to add something else too. There was testimony from ASAP Blue. And ASAP Blue, even though it wasn't a question, ASAP Blue wanted to get in front of you, I think 2 times at a minimum, that the defendant is looking at 24 years in prison. The defendant is looking at whatever Judge Arnold decides he's going to give him. So you are not allowed, by the way, to consider, oh my gosh, if I convict, you get 24 years. You're not allowed to consider, even if that was true. But in the end, Judge Arnold will decide what the sentence in this case is. So if any of you go back there and say, well, you know what, I just don't think that this crime, I'm just not comfortable with 24 years, you can't do that. If one of the rest of you does it, guys, it's misconduct. You can't do it. You got to stop yourself, you got to stop the person next to you, you got to say, you know what, you can't do that. All right, you've got to base your decision on this case on the facts that have been proved from the evidence. Now, this is really important. The instruction does not say on the facts that have been proved from the people's evidence. That is hugely important in this case. There is no question whatsoever that our case got immeasurably stronger because the defense chose to put on a case. No question. Even if some of you were saying to yourselves, you know what, I I don't think based on just what the prosecution put on, that I would have convicted. And let's think about that for a second. Until the defense case, now they mentioned in the opening, but remember, opening is not evidence. Until the defense case, we don't know what the defense is. It could have been self-defense. It could have been any number of things. It wasn't. They chose to put on a defense. They didn't have to. You remember what here I asked you all. Are you going to give any points to the defense if they choose to put on their defense in their case, or they don't have to? Or are you going to look at their evidence as critical, as importantly as you do for our evidence? You all said you would do it. They elected to put on a defense that killed their case. It destroyed it. And I'll go through it. It started with Wally. The best evidence from the victim, this is probably the second thing I agree with Mr. Tacopina. Mr. Tacopina put on Wally to impeach the defendant, to impeach the victim on an issue of whether it was his voice. And obviously, it was Rowley's voice. And obviously, he was uncooperative. But let's take a step back and ask ourselves, why was Rowley uncooperative in this case? Well, he told you, and you saw evidence of it. In April of 2022, when it came out that Rowley was the individual who reported the defendant to the police, he's facing death threats. His family is facing death threats.